My guest is Dr. Jacques Gauthier, an international lawyer and academic who has spent the last 2 decades studying the rights to and ownership of Jerusalem. Once again, our lines are open for you to call in at any time with any of your questions or your comments, and don't be shy. Dr. Gauthier, it's great to have you on with us today.
It's a privilege to be with you.
I am very intrigued by your work, and before I even ask my first question, there's a document I have here, a very heavy one that I want to show our audience. Take a look at it. Very heavy document indeed. Look at this thing. It's over 1,000 pages, and this is the work, Dr. Gauthier, that you have done on your own.
Well, I started this over 20 years ago. East Jerusalem, as we refer to it, all the blue dots, the blue areas, are now Jewish communities which have been built and expanded after 1967. So although East Jerusalem is often referred to as Arab East Jerusalem, it is in fact an area which is a mixture now of Arab communities and Jewish communities.
Okay. So
the claims presented by the Zionist organization, by the Arab people. During the Paris Peace Conference, it takes us to San Remo, and I quickly must explain to you the tremendous importance of the San Remo Conference that took place in 1920. As a result of all the deliberations and arguments in Paris for 6 months, the first 6 months of 1919, the Treaty of Versailles emerged.
yes.
And decisions were made on what to do with territories of Europe, which chunks to take away from the Germans and their allies and give to others. But decisions were not made concerning the Ottoman territories.
Yes, of the Middle East.
Yeah, they heard the arguments and the presentations and the claims of the Zionist organization, of the Arabs, who incidentally were not disagreeing with each other in Paris. In fact, there was a treaty signed between Weizmann, the leader of the Zionist organization, and Faisal, the leader of the Arabs, in which they said they would support each other's claims. So we get to St. Remo, and the purpose of St. Remo was for the leaders to gather to deliberate on what to do with what they heard in Paris. And this is where the legal issue is tackled. This is where judgment is rendered, which I contend is still relevant today. At this conference, it is decided that a large area of the former Ottoman territories, referred to as Mesopotamia then, Iraq now, or Lebanon and Syria, is to be for the benefit of the Arab inhabitants of those territories. So the largest area of the Ottoman territories goes to the Arabs as a result of the St. Remo decisions. But for the Jewish people, Palestine is supposed to be the setting, and then I'm referring to the area both west of the Jordan River and east of the Jordan River, comprising what is now Jordan today. So St. Remo is the place and time when those who had the power to make a decision made a decision in favor of the Jewish people in respect to an area called Palestine then, and in favor of the Arab people in regard to a huge area called Mesopotamia, Iraq, and another area which was Syria and Lebanon. Is stipulated that it is the responsibility of the trustee, which was chosen, England, the UK, to take the steps necessary for the establishment of a Jewish national home as laid down in the preamble, and the preamble to that treaty specifies that the historical connection of the Jewish people with Palestine has been recognized, and the grounds for reconstituting their national home in that country. The very thing that was presented at the Paris Peace Conference by the Zionist organization, what they asked the group of leaders to recognize was in fact recognized. At the same time, what the Arabs were looking for, recognition for the support of a large independent Arab state, was recognized to the extent that chunks of the territories of the Ottomans were allocated to them under separate treaties. Is stipulated that it is the responsibility of the trustee, which was chosen, England, the UK, to take the steps necessary for the establishment of a Jewish national home as laid down in the preamble, and the preamble to that treaty specifies that the historical connection of the Jewish people with Palestine has been recognized, and the grounds for reconstituting their national home in that country. The very thing that was presented at the Paris Peace Conference by the Zionist organization, what they asked the group of leaders to recognize was in fact recognized. At the same time, what the Arabs were looking for, recognition for the support of a large independent Arab state, was recognized to the extent that chunks of the territories of the Ottomans were allocated to them under separate treaties.
But yet, Dr. Gauthier, what is now recognized as the area of Jordan, what people refer to as Palestinian territory, there is so much division there. First of all, I'd like your comment on who comprises this area of Jordan, because I think a lot of people don't understand how varied the demographics of Jordan is. If you can just bring us up to speed on that.
Well, you have to understand that at the time of the mandate for Palestine, it was not referred to as the mandate for Palestine and Jordan. There was no Jordan. There was an area called Transjordan. Yes. The intent was for the entire area to be the location of the Jewish national home. There were political differences between the French and the British in 1920, 1921, resulting in a conflict, and Winston Churchill, under great pressure, allocated two-thirds of the area which was supposed to be for the national Jewish home. He gave that to the Hashemite family. The brother of Faisal, Abdullah, established an emirate and then eventually his kingdom there. So a lot of people have taken the position that if only that entire area had been available for the Jewish national home, a lot of the problems we're facing today trying to accommodate Jews and Palestinians in that area would not have been the same.
Wow.
But I am taking the position that the issue concerning the status of Jerusalem, who has title to Jerusalem, has been settled. It is res judicata, it is chose jugée, in favor of the Jewish people. I believe that the starting point for negotiations, for anyone who really wants to get to the bottom of things and hopes to find a solution, is to go back to who was given title. When the Supreme Council of the Allies pledged to honor certain commitments that had been made during the war to the Arabs, these leaders all said, we've honored these commitments by what we did in Mesopotamia, by what we did in Lebanon, by what we did in Syria. They went even beyond what they had committed by taking two-thirds of what was then Palestine and also giving that to the Arabs under the Hashemite regime. The Hashemites came from Arabia in those days, but the rulers are not former inhabitants of that area, but the majority of those who live in Jordan today can be referred to as Palestinians. This is Khalil Mishal, who is the Hamas leader. He's based in Damascus. And basically he said that Jerusalem, for them, for Hamas, is all of Jerusalem, and not only East Jerusalem or the Abu Dis neighborhood of Jerusalem. And he stated that the Zionists have no claim over Jews. The current climate is not good, and it's getting worse. The ramifications of the Goldstone report are really, really huge. They're significant because it seems to be giving momentum to different initiatives around the world that are fueled by anti-Semitism. And so although one cannot say that there's no component of what the report in question deals with, it has to do with international justice. But there's no time to get into the details in that regard. But I'm very concerned about the current atmosphere, the current international mood, which is increasingly anti-Semitic.